I think this one will be perfect for our living room.
Yeah, I like the pattern. It'll match the sofa.
We really needed some new bowls
Yes.
and plates. Look at all these fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
They look amazing. This looks so good.
Thank you, my love.
Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for coming back to our channel. In today's story, we follow Duh, a man who has just crossed the fragile line between life and death after battling a life-threatening illness, and witnesses his deeply emotional journey of recovery, not only in body, but also in spirit and in love. After many long days in the hospital, filled with pain and uncertainty, Duh is finally discharged. However, instead of returning to the lonely house he once called home, he faces one of the most important decisions of his life. Huyen, the woman who stayed by his side through his darkest moments, firmly refuses to let him live alone again. She brings him into her home, where she lives with her young daughter Maya, so she can care for him and ensure he never has to face illness in solitude again. At first, Duh is hesitant and overwhelmed by guilt, afraid of becoming a burden. Yet, through Huyen's patience, quiet devotion, and Maya's innocent warmth, his fears slowly fade. From simple shared meals and peaceful evenings to their first trip to the market together, these everyday moments gently weave them into a true family. This story doesn't rely on dramatic twists, but instead touches the heart through healing, love, and hope. It is about learning to accept care, finding the strength to live again after tragedy, and discovering happiness in life's simplest moments. If you enjoy heartfelt, meaningful stories that bring comfort and inspiration, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming episodes. Your support means everything to us and motivates us to continue sharing stories that heal, inspire, and connect hearts. Thank you for watching and for being part of our journey. Duh was discharged from the hospital on a calm, windless morning. As he stepped out through the hospital doors, everything before his eyes felt fragile, almost like a dream. Just a few weeks earlier, he had been lying motionless on a hospital bed, his body emaciated, his breathing heavy, never certain how much longer he had left to live. The life-threatening illness had drained him of strength and hope, leaving behind a quiet fear he never dared to voice. Huyen stood beside him, holding the discharge papers in her hands. Though exhaustion showed on her face, her eyes reflected unmistakable relief. She looked at him for a long moment, as if needing to be sure that the man standing before her had truly crossed the line between life and death. Duh smiled faintly, a weak yet sincere smile. His thoughts drifted to his small house, a place long accustomed to silence, where he had lived alone for years, enduring sickness and pain through lonely nights no one ever witnessed. He was about to say that he would go home and rest, that he was fine now, that he didn't want to trouble anyone anymore. But Huyen spoke first, her voice not loud, yet firm enough to leave no room for refusal. She told him he could not go back to living alone, that after everything that had happened, she could not bear the thought of him facing illness and uncertainty by himself again. Duh froze. A warmth spread through his chest, mixed with hesitation. He understood her concern, yet he feared becoming a burden, feared disrupting the stable life she and her daughter had built together. He remained silent for a long time. In that silence, memories from the hospital flooded back with painful clarity. Nights when he thought he wouldn't survive, moments when the pain was so unbearable he wanted to give up, and times when he opened his eyes to see Huyen sitting beside his bed, asleep from exhaustion, her hand still tightly holding his, as if letting go meant losing him forever. Da suddenly realized that in his weakest moments, Huyen had never left his side. So why, now that she was reaching out to him, was he afraid to take her hand? At last, Da nodded. He didn't say much, only softly told her that he would come live with her, at least for a while. Huyen couldn't hide her emotions. Her eyes turned red, but she smiled, a relieved smile of someone who had just managed to hold on to what mattered most. The day Day moved into Huyen's house, Maya was already waiting at the door. She looked at him with curious, excited eyes, then ran over and hugged him tightly, innocently asking whether Uncle Day would be living with her and her mother from now on. Day laughed and nodded, and in that moment, he felt his heart soften in a way he had never known before. The house wasn't large, but it was warm. There was laughter, the familiar smell of home-cooked food, and a sense of peace he had lost long ago. The first days of living together were not easy. Day was still weak, often tired, sometimes dizzy after just a few steps. Huyen took care of him with a level of attentiveness that bordered on strictness. She wrote down medication schedules, prepared every meal according to the doctor's instructions, forbade him from lifting heavy things or staying up late. Day occasionally felt guilty, but more than anything, he felt grateful. Maya became his little supervisor, constantly reminding him to rest and take his medicine, sometimes sitting beside him to tell stories about school. Those simple, ordinary moments made Day realize that he was no longer alone. One morning, when Day's health had improved a little, Huyen suggested that the three of them go to the market together. Day hesitated at first, but seeing the excitement in Maya's eyes, he couldn't refuse. The morning market was crowded and lively, filled with vendors' calls and the fresh scents of vegetables, fish, and meat blending into the air. Huyen carefully selected each bunch of greens and each tut of meat, occasionally turning to ask Day what he felt like eating. He simply smiled and said that as long as she cooked it, he would enjoy anything. Maya chattered endlessly, asking for snacks and milk, and the three of them laughed together like a real family. They bought a few small household items as well, a new set of dishes, an unused pot, simple things that seemed insignificant yet carried deep meaning. Day realized they weren't just shopping, they were building a home together, piece by piece, through care and companionship. Evenings in the house became peaceful and comforting. Huyen cooked in the kitchen, Day helped wash vegetables or simply watched, while Maya did her homework at the small table nearby. After dinner, the three would sit together, talking, watching movies, or simply enjoying the quiet. Sometimes Maya fell asleep on Day's shoulder, and he wouldn't dare move, afraid of waking her. Huyen would watch from a distance, her heart filled with an emotion she couldn't quite put into words, something gentle, warm, and deeply moving. As time passed, Day's health steadily improved. He ate better, slept more soundly, and his spirit grew brighter. During a follow-up visit, the doctor smiled and said that a positive mindset was the strongest medicine of all. Day knew it was true. What had pulled him back from the edge wasn't just treatment, but the quiet, steadfast love of Huyen and Maya. One late night, after Maya had fallen asleep, Day sat beside Huyen and softly thanked her. He thanked her for not letting him face illness alone, for giving him a place to return to and a reason to keep living and trying. Huyen simply smiled, took his hand, and said that family was like that. no one ever gets left behind. Outside, life continued with its challenges, and Day's recovery still required time. But inside that small house, there was a man who had once stood at the edge between life and death, a resilient woman, and an innocent little girl. Together, they moved forward, slowly but steadily. And for Day, waking up each day in a home where the light was left on for him, where familiar laughter awaited, was the most complete happiness he had ever known.
Xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì Đệ đã hồi phục và được xuất viện. Và điều đầu tiên sau khi hồi phục và xuất viện đó chính là việc Đệ sẽ chuyển về ở với Huyền tại nông trại của Huyền để hai người có thời gian gần gũi và chăm sóc nhau nhiều hơn. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về cuộc sống của Huyền và Đệ tại nông trại khi sống chung với nhau cùng với bé May A sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng vào ngày mai trên kênh Live Single RV nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều đã luôn theo dõi ủng hộ kênh của mình. Đặc biệt các bạn đừng quên bấm nút like, share và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nha. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào tập ngày mai. Bye bye!